2 years ago, necessity was the mother of invention. With inclement weather, they chose to have the program in here, which was a huge success. The parade route was modified a little bit this year, which I think was an excellent turnout. So once again, we gather to celebrate and remember. Dignitaries and the commanding officers of the Legion, welcome everyone. They are the sponsors of this year's parade. It is with great pleasure at this time I'd like to introduce our pastor, Father Paul.
Let us now ask God to bless our gathering. Heavenly Father, we thank you for stirring up the hearts of men and women everywhere, so young, so full of life, willing to lay down their lives for their country, for their love of their country. And we ask, Lord, that we may always value their memory, those especially who have died. We ask, Lord, that you may see the goodness with which they lived, and that you may reward them for the courage with which they died. We ask, Lord, that we will never forget not only those in the military, but those who serve us in the police departments and the fire departments and the EMS. We ask, Lord, that we will never forget how they serve us, the community. And we ask, Lord, that we may always be grateful. We ask your blessing upon our remarks today. We pray this in this house of God. We pray this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Father. And for most of you folks that don't know, unfortunately, this will be the last Memorial Day Father Paul will be with us. He is being transferred on June 18th, and we'll miss him. Thank you, Father. It also is with great pleasure at this time, we'll have one of our local young girls sing the Star Spangled Banner, Nevada Rob. Please remain standing just for a second, and we'll now officially pledge allegiance to our flag. Allegiance to the flag. Please be seated. We have several speakers for today. First one will be the great mayor of Ashland, Ray Wallachevich, and also a veteran.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today and speak on behalf of these brave veterans. We're here today to honor our veterans, living and the ones who gave the ultimate sacrifice and give their lives, so we all can live under a democracy. We don't want to forget about our disabled veterans also. Our disabled veterans are the veterans with the invisible wounds of war, the ones that are suffering from post-traumatic stress. When you pass them on the street, you'd never know the nightmares and the sleepless nights that they experience because of their disabilities. They might never hold down a full-time job because of it. We also don't want to forget about our disabled vets who are in the wheelchairs and the ones with amputated limbs. All these veterans suffer with their disabilities, so you and I could share the freedoms we have today, such as freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and freedom to worship in the church of your choice. All these freedoms that you and I take for granted. Our great president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, once said, "Those who have long enjoyed such freedoms and privileges as we enjoy today forget in time the men and women who died so we could have such privileges." I'd like to just stress one thing, the true meaning. I'd like to ask everyone to just take part of your Memorial Day and reflect on the true meaning of Memorial Day itself. Memorial Day is a special day for the veterans who died for our freedoms. I find it somewhat offensive also that the businesses use Memorial Day as a sales day so they could sell their products. Memorial Day wasn't proclaimed for that reason. It was proclaimed because of our veterans, because of the veterans that had fought for our country and died. I personally have lost a friend, a good friend, Francis Carey, who died because of his disability, which he sustained while serving in Vietnam. I, for one, being the mayor of Ashland, would like to thank, and I feel very proud of having organizations such as the American Legion and the VFW. These organizations are dedicated to our local veterans, and we should all work together to preserve these organizations. The main reason that a lot of the organizations are closing in our surrounding communities is because of a lack of membership. I'll conclude my remarks here by just saying once again, I'd like to thank all veterans for serving when they were called to serve. And before I turn this over to the commander of the American Legion, Dan Whiteman, I'd like to finish by just saying, the next time you meet a veteran on the street, just say thank you for your service, and thank you for protecting our freedoms. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for letting me speak here today on behalf of these brave men. And I'll conclude by saying, God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And as the Mayor said, our next up will be the commander of American Legion Post 434, Commander Dan Whiteman.
Thank
keynote speaker for today, Mr. Thomas Daniel, Vietnam veteran. He is also the service officer for the American Legion. Tom will share his experiences with us, some good, some bad. Mr. Daniel.
Let me begin by saying how honored I am to have this opportunity this morning to take part in this Memorial Day program. Also, with only about a week or 8 days away from the 75th anniversary of the D-Day invasion in Normandy, France, I think it's important that we think back to that day and realize that on that particular day, 4,000 men died on the beaches of Normandy in one day. I got the opportunity to visit there a few years later and went to the American Cemetery and saw the thousands and thousands of white crosses, many of which just simply say, "In here lies an honored soldier whose name is known but to God." What an experience to see that. I often think about when I was in Vietnam and we would be out in the jungles of Vietnam, and every time you get a break, one of the things you learn to do in the military is to complain. And we would complain in and out about it's too hot and the bugs, and there were a lot of bugs and spiders and ants. It was hot, you had to cut your way through the jungle, and we'd get a break for 15 minutes, and all we'd do was complain about how tough we had it. And then we'd have a little conversation, and we would say, well, we could be here fighting that and waiting for ambushes or wherever else, or we could be in one of those boats coming up to the beaches of Normandy where the front comes down and you charge those machine guns. And we kind of said to ourselves, well, maybe we don't have it that tough. So when I think about those beaches of Normandy, I just think about the bravery of those men who died that particular day. In a way, I celebrate Memorial Day many times during the year, because as my mind wanders back to Vietnam, as it often does, I think about and pray for my friends who died there. Every time I watch the military channel on TV, I think about the heroes we honor today. The Americans who died in places like Normandy, Iwo Jima, the Chosin Reservoir, Midway, the Iron Triangle, Fallujah, and many other places that we don't even know their names. Without their sacrifices, there would be no freedom. Without their sacrifices, there would be no America. I hope that when you leave here today, you leave this church with a renewed sense of patriotism and a greater sense of gratitude for the Americans who sacrificed their lives for us. Today I'll share some thoughts with you, some ideas and selections. Just thinking about this particular day to make it. Here in Ashland, we have the American Legion Post 434 and the VFW Post 7654. American Legion Post 434 is named after Bernard J. Dolan. He was from Big Mine Run, and he died. He was in the Big Red One, the same division I was with in Vietnam. He was an ambulance driver in World War I. He died on July 21st, 1918 in France, and he was buried 3 years later at St. Joe's Cemetery in the top of the Ashland. The John O'Donnell Martin Baldino Post. John O'Donnell, for my research, was the first Ashland resident to die in World War II. He died in Australia, and he went to St. Joe's High School there. William Martin died in 1950 in the Korean War and is buried at Christ Church Cemetery in Fountain Springs. Francis D. Baldino died in the jungles of Vietnam on November 14th, 1968. I was in Vietnam at the time, and I found out about 2 weeks later about John Baldino. I knew him, and I knew his sister. And I went to high school with his sister, and I went to college with his brother. So I knew about him. When I saw that on that day, I actually found out Thanksgiving Day, 1968. And I knew the family. And I talked with his sister recently, and I reached out this week to his friend Jack Coronado, who he lived with. And from what I know, Frank, we would say that Frank was just like any young kid today. He had a car, he had a girlfriend, and he was always ready to help a friend. And friends were very important to Frank. So his sister Mary Ann told me that she had given her brother a St. Christopher medal a day or two before he left for Vietnam, and asked that he wear it to keep him safe. She found out later that he gave it to his girlfriend so she could wear it and keep her safe until he got home. According to his friend Jack, Frank wanted to prove to others and himself that he could be counted on. He did prove that by his service and his sacrifice. He got out of high school in June '67, and 16 months later he died in the jungles of Vietnam. I often find things that I like to use in my speeches for Memorial Day, and sometimes I have 2 poems and a letter. Today I happen to have 2 letters and a poem. I read them because I believe when you hear them, it shows and expresses the true sense of Memorial Day. And I think it makes you really understand, not that you never did, but in a true sense, why we're here today. This letter was written by the soldier who was going to Afghanistan. It was written to his wife. And as soon as I read it, you'll understand it. It says, "Dear Emma, well, if you are reading this, I guess I did not make it home. And therefore, I was not able to remind you again of how much I love you. Although I may not be here right now, take comfort in the fact that I am watching over you right now. I am not gone, and I will always be with you in spirit. The memories that we have shared over the last few years have been the best of my life. I lived a life that most can only dream of. I married the perfect woman. I have a beautiful daughter that amazes me every day. Be strong for her. Remind her about her daddy. Tell her that I love her more than anything else in the world. Tell her daddy is in heaven now and will watch over her and protect her every minute of every day. Never be afraid to do what you need to do to be happy. It is so important that you can continue to find happiness in your life. You and Riley have a wonderful life ahead of you, and I am so happy to have shared part of it with you. I love you, your loving husband, Todd." That's the reality of war. That's the reality of going to war and never coming home, and others here waiting for you, and they know that it's never going to happen. That's the reality of being a Gold Star family. I'm reading a book now about being a grunt in Vietnam. The book is titled A Life in a Year by James R. Ebert. There is one particular paragraph I want to share with you today. It reminds me of how I felt when I left for Vietnam in October of 1968. Ebert wrote, "I feel I am compelled to go and fight because of all the men who went before me. I am not sure if the war is right, but I must go. If the time comes and I must die, I have made up my mind that I will die proud. It is a big challenge, and I have to meet it. I am ready to go. This is the reality of all Americans face when they need to go to war. And of course, we know that not everyone comes home. And every year since I've been speaking in Schuylkill County, which is almost 40 years now, I remember three of my friends, 3 members of my squad that died on March 14th, 1969, 50 years ago this March. Furnace Freeman, Jr. was really from North Carolina, Sonoma, North Carolina, but he lived in New York City, 26 years old, real tough guy. He never thought anything was going to happen because he was so tough. But He died March 14th. Wayman Jones from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. All he talked about was coming back home to the mountains of Western PA. And Stephen Lucia from Newport Beach, California. He was kind of a beach guy, had made his own cars, fixed them up, was always out with his buddies. He loved photography. He took hundreds of pictures. Stephen Lucia took a friend of his who was going in a bunker, and Stephen Lucia said, "No, Toledo, don't go in there. You're married, I'll go in." And he'd get in the bunker, and he never came out alive. They were my friends. I watched them die. And every year I read a poem that I wrote after visiting the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. And I wrote this poem dedicated to them. I know sometimes people wonder why I keep reading it. It's because I honor them by doing this. If I didn't do it, I'd feel bad. And if I didn't do it, my son would be angry with me because he said whenever I speak from Memorial Day, I have to read it. So it goes like this. Twice I've gone to the wall to see the names of men who served with me. In black granite, their names are shown. It's many years since they left home. I can't forget their faces, though, as tears in my eyes begin to flow. And each friend whose name is here, I think of you often through the year. I cannot change what God has done in a faraway country scorched by the sun. But you believed in a cause and followed through, which is what brave men are supposed to do. Since I saw you in combat fall, my prayers and thoughts are with you all. Your lives were too short, lost in war's horror. I will never forget your bravery and honor. I keep thinking that I should have done more to keep you safe in that war. This question remains with me each passing day. If only I could hear what you have to say. My children will hear your names off and on as I look at pictures of Vietnam. How can I forget such friends as you after all we've been through? I'm one of the lucky ones, I guess they'd say, because I had my homecoming day. But remember, friends, one thing is true. I will always think and talk of you. If God would grant one miracle for me, I would reunite each of you with your family. I'm sure they still shed many tears in spite of all the passing years. Comrades in arms, we shared many things. I pray to God your peace he brings. May you rest in peace is my desire, no more to hear any enemy fire. Every war is filled with brave men, brave women, and brave deeds. And thinking of the deeds of men and women like this made me more aware of the heroic efforts of all American veterans. It also made me more aware of the bonds formed between men and women in combat. In a very short time, they became like brothers and sisters. They slept together, they ate together, they cried together, they fought together, they dreamed together, they prayed together, and most importantly, they were prepared to die together because they believed in the cause of freedom throughout the world. As I look in the audience today and I see my friends, and I think of something else, the passing of time, they have whitened their hair, bent their backs, and slowed their steps. When I look into their eyes and I talk with them, I see the same love of country and flag, the same loyalty to comrades that they had when they marched off to serve 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60 years ago. And for 1 minute, I'd like us to think and hope and pray for Ed Kane being okay. Ed Kane is one of our Legion members. He fell today outside of the church coming in, and they had to take him in ambulance. So we'll have a quick prayer for him sometime before you go home today. And of course, now a new generation of Americans is stepping up to accept their challenge. And as we've seen in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria and other places, they have not shied away from their responsibilities. Rather, they have courageously accepted them. These young Americans have shown their willingness to serve to protect human dignity and maintain the concept of freedom throughout the world. So many Americans sometimes just take freedom for granted. They forget the sacrifices of the American veterans. We are reminded of the words written at the Korean War Memorial: freedom is not free. I want to share with you another letter written by a mother who lost her son in Iraq. He's buried in Arlington Cemetery, and she visits him every weekend. writes, "Dear Eric, I am so sorry we never had the reunion we had planned for you. It would have been so nice. You were gone. I can't fill the hole of your absence. But I do feel at peace sitting here surrounded by American heroes. I remember your sensitivity and your handsome face. Your Marine brothers came home and I met them. We laughed together and we cried together. It is terrible the grief they keep inside. Eric, please watch over your Marine brothers. They need your help. They will carry this grief with them all the days of their lives. I am alone here, but this place is so special and beautiful. I can pray my heart out to you. Just you, me, and God. Oh, Eric, the guard is telling me they are going to close the gates now. My sweet child, I must go, but remember, I love you with all my heart, all my soul, and all my being. Love, Mama." This letter certainly reminds us of the cost of war and why we are here today. In closing, I was going to say you don't have to do that, but it's too late now. In closing, let me say that the brave men and women that we honor today sacrificed their lives for our country and for us. It is only fitting that we participate in such a program as here today. And with all my heart, I believe it is important and necessary to remind the youth of our nation about the sacrifices made by both previous generations and the brave young men and women serving today. My friend Jack Granata told me last week, he said, "Tom, it seems to me that we will not have a great country without great sacrifice. The only question is, who will do the sacrificing?" As we conclude this program today, I ask you to always take the time to remember and to thank those brave heroes we have left behind. Thank you.
Very well said, Tom. Very well. For the next couple of things we have on our agenda, you may remain seated. We're going to be doing a couple different things here. Right now we're going to have the body once again. We're going to sing "God Bless America."
Three-round volley, remembrance of all our fallen heroes. Ready! Aim! Fire! Aim! Aim! Fire! Reset! Hard! Bugler! Order. Halt.
For allowing us to be here today on this special day, remembering those who sacrificed so much for us. And I ask the Lord that somehow, if we got any extra feeling today about those brave men and women who gave their lives, to please allow us to show that in our daily lives and allow us to remember those brave men and women throughout the year, not just today. And dear Lord, we thank you for those brave young men and women who sacrificed so we can have the freedoms that we have. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
As we wind down today's festivities, again, a thank you to a lot of lovely singing as always. Again, to the veterans, the legions, let us not forget them at all. Let us come to that time in the program where I never like to say goodbye, but until next year, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.